Hello, public opinion aficionados, and welcome to Rasmussen Reports, the far-right conspiracy theorist pollster that now has Harris winning by 6. Now, slow down. It's not true, but it might be what you're seeing on Twitter right now if you're one of those kind of people whose hair catches on fire really easily. And also, we're independent. We've always been independent. We always plan to be independent because getting you accurate information and maintaining our integrity is more important than anything else. Now, we're going to get into that headline and also the state of the 2024 race at the end of the video. But before we do, we've talked a lot about the fundamentals of the race. We've talked about the economy and inflation, which are the number one issues according to voters. We've talked about the southern border, and we've even talked a little bit about abortion. And all of those are important issues, the economy by far the biggest one. But what we're going to look at today is what I think is one of the biggest things structurally driving Kamala Harris's underperformance in the polls. And that's exactly what it is, because she polls worse than Biden did in 2020, and she even polls worse than Hillary Clinton against Donald Trump way back in 2016, 8 years ago. So you're definitely not going to want to miss this. And, pretty big sample, 1,200 U.S. likely voters. When considering the general conditions in this country, which is closer to your feeling? America needs more of the same, or America needs a fresh start and a new direction. And only 20% of voters, that's incredibly small, say more of the same, but 73% say a fresh start and a new direction. We're going to take a look at who those more of the same people are for sure. But, there's a difference between men and women, but it isn't that much. And 18 to 39-year-olds, believe it or not, are more interested in keeping more of the same. That's kind of weird. But older voters pretty much agree a fresh start and a new beginning by massive, almost 60-point margins. White, Black, and Hispanic voters, again, are all pretty much similar. Hispanic voters are more likely to say more of the same. That's interesting. But here are the party numbers. Democrats are more likely to say more of the same as well, but it's only 1/3 of them. And keep in mind, they have a candidate in the White House right now, and 60% of them say a fresh start and a new direction. But look at Republicans and independents and how close they are together on this. 84% of Republicans and 76% of independents say they want a fresh start and a new direction. And that's a problem because in our previous polling, we did a whole video about it. Kamala Harris, in voters' minds, is pretty tied together with the Biden administration. A quick stop at income shows that people with incomes over $200,000 are much more likely than anyone else to say more of the same, 38%. But Biden's administration probably has been good for their stock portfolios. But let's go out to Biden approval. And Biden's strong approvers, 47% of them say they want more of the same. They like the current situation in America. And, these people also routinely answer that America is headed in the right direction more than anybody else. But pretty much everyone else here, look at Biden's strong disapprovers. 91% say a fresh start and a new direction. That's a really high number. But as a presidential candidate, does Kamala Harris offer more of the same? And 58% of voters say yes. Only 37% of voters say she offers a fresh start and a new direction. That's really bad for her. A 21-point deficit here. And even women who go for Kamala Harris quite a bit say she's more of the same, 56% to 39%. And 18 to 39-year-olds, it's almost tied here. But look at the older voters. Overwhelmingly, they say she's more of the same. And that's crazy since the media is trying to paint her as a fresh start and a new direction. All that about a younger generation passing the torch doesn't look like people are buying it. Even 43% of Black voters say she's more of the same. But a majority of them, 51%, do say a fresh start and a new direction. Look at the party numbers. Overwhelmingly, Republicans say more of the same, 77% to 20%. And Democrats, again, go the other way, but only 59% of Democrats say she's a fresh start in a new direction. 36% of them say more of the same. But again, look at independents. Donald Trump is winning independents as of last week by double digits. Kamala Harris needs to win these people. She's trying to appeal with them by picking communist vice presidential running mates and putting out price control policies. But 62% of independents say that she's more of the same. 30% say a fresh start in a new direction. But we also have numbers for Trump. And as a presidential candidate, does Donald Trump offer more of the same? And only 39% of voters say more of the same, but he wins with a fresh start in a new direction. 52% to 39 or a 13-point margin, which is a really big signal considering it's, what's that, 34 points to the Fresh Start direction than Kamala Harris does in her question. And men and women agree on this one exactly. 18 to 39-year-olds are tied. And older voters agree that Donald Trump is a fresh start in a new direction. And again, he was in office less than 4 years ago as president. I don't know if that's because people want him back or it's ancient history, or maybe they thought he never really had a full shot at his presidential term. I guess we'll never know. Definitely open to input on what kind of additional questions we can ask to explore this kind of topic. And black voters say more of the same, but only 49% of plurality to 35%. And here are the party numbers. Crazy. Only 62% of Democrats say that Donald Trump offers more of the same, but 23% of them admit he is a fresh start in a new direction. Republicans, it's the other way. 18% more of the same, 80% a fresh start, and independents give Trump the benefit here by 16 points. Again, he's winning independents by 12, pretty close. I have to think that this is one of the main issues here, because this 16 points is, I think, bigger than recently. Donald Trump has been beating Kamala Harris on things like on issues like the economy and the border. But even only 72% of Biden's strong approvers can muster the courage to say that Donald Trump is more of the same, although 89% of Biden's strong disapprovers say he's a fresh start and a new direction. So I don't know. Tell me what you think in the comments. I think this is a really strong signal. For the last 3 years, more than race, more than income or education or even political party, the biggest signal anywhere in the crosstabs has always been among how people view Joe Biden's job performance. And so even with Kamala Harris on the ticket, even with all of the work the media is doing to try and paint her as a new, fresh candidate, I don't think it's going to stick. This election appears to be a referendum on Joe Biden's, according to voters, horrible term in the White House. But now, as I promised, an update on the state of the race. We go to Poly Markets first because we expect to see the quickest reaction here. And it looks like really Trump lost a 6-point lead with the debate, and it's been hovering 49 to 50, pretty much deadlocked. And the market really isn't pricing in any impact from the assassination attempt yesterday. Pretty crazy. I wonder if that's because people don't think it's going to swing the race, or I wonder if this is just a really packed market and both sides have equal buying and selling power. Not sure, but I can say things are starting to look pretty interesting on the Real Clear Politics aggregate. A lot of new polls have dropped. And let's deal with the lefties first. ABC News Ipsos has Harris +4. Yahoo News, this one's new. Also, this one here, +4. Data for Progress, +4. And Morning Consult, +5. A lot of pollsters who in the past have had a proven Democrat skew have now, after the debate, all dropped polls showing Harris doing incrementally about 1 point better. Maybe that's what their numbers say, or maybe they're just trying to edge her up with every bit of media cover they can. I think it's reasonable to assume when you see things like the news coming out of ABC with the possible sworn affidavit that says there may have been cheating in the debate. I'm not accusing them of anything. If they're willing to cheat in the debate, however, are they willing to cook their poll numbers? That could be what we're seeing here. But I will say, I do think they're willing to cook their polling aggregate 538 because they kicked us out of 538 for ideological reasons, driving their entire aggregate left because we are one of the more prolific pollsters. If you really like data, why not use us? Sure, apply whatever weightings and bias corrections you want. We think we're right. We think we're trying to be accurate. And believe it or not, Atlas Intel agrees with us. They have Trump +3 right now nationally. Now, we've had Trump +3 in a while, but we did put out a Trump +2 last week. There it is right at the bottom. So New York Times Siena, Rasmussen Reports, Atlas Intel, all very well-respected pollsters, all pollsters who are known for incredibly accurate track records, show that Trump is winning the national popular vote. And a whole lot of left-leaning organizations say that Harris is winning. Look at Data for Progress. This is their website. Data for Progress is the think tank for the future of progressivism. And when you go to the polls, ABC News, Yahoo News, the Morning Consult, even New York Post, that's kind of crazy, all agree with a left-wing think tank that Harris is winning +4. Now, what have the recent numbers said? This is where that whole thing about Rasmussen having Harris +6 comes from. Listen, not everybody's going to understand this. And if you don't, just don't worry about it. But in the interest of increased transparency, in the interest of highlighting the fact that we are polling more than anybody else, nobody else can do this. They go into the field like 2 days out of the month. We are polling every night and we're showing you the data. Every single night is kind of like a mini poll, but it's got a huge margin of error, plus or minus 5 points. What that means, a margin of error, is the 95% confidence interval. That means if we were to poll 20 times, 19 out of the 20 times, you'd expect the results to be within literally a 10-point swing. And guess what? These results that show last night that Kamala Harris is beating Donald Trump by 6 points, only a 370-person sample, is well within the 95% confidence interval. So this is just random static noise. We're flipping coins here, and sometimes you get like 10 heads in a row. That is what is happening here. Now, I can say that it has moved the 5-period moving average down. You know, yesterday it was like Trump +3. Now it's Trump +1. But we could get another Trump +10 tonight, and it'll move right back up. This is a deeper explanation into this entire concept of confidence interval and statistics. So I took all of the overnight results, all the way going back to July 23rd, for, let's just say, Trump. Let's look at his first, and put them in to bins in this histogram, and notice how it looks like a bell curve, the normal distribution. Anything probabilistic, if it doesn't have some kind of skew, will pretty much look like this. Big fat center and long skinny tails. Now, just looking from this chart without even doing the math, I can say that the mean, the average, is probably 48% right here, meaning that the responses below that number are equally as likely as the responses above it. And there's a long skinny tail. Last night, Trump got 44%. That is only 4 points less than the mean of 48%. And yes, this assumes that all of the numbers we've seen over the last almost 2 months have not been due to any drifting trends, but stick with me. So if it's 4 points less than the mean, that's less than 5% margin of error, which means that it's within the confidence interval. So yes, even though we expect to see less results that are 3 points, 4 points, almost 5 points outside the mean, doesn't mean we're not going to see them. And that's how you get to a Trump -6, all within the realm of statistical possibility. But here are the Harris numbers, and hers has a little bit more skew. I think part of this is because her numbers really have been increasing over time. And she did have one outlier down there at 37 or 38%. I think that's the first data point right after the switcheroo. So maybe that's the 1 out of 20 times that's outside the range. But just looking at this chart, I would call her mean, 45, 46. So that's Trump +2, Trump +3, like right where our weekly polls have him. But again, if her mean is, call it 46%, then the 50 points she got last night is only 4 points higher than that. Again, within the 5-point margin of error. So that's the thing. We're putting this data out here. It's noisy. We're trying to determine if these movements are trends or if they're just statistical noise. And to be honest with you, post-debate, or maybe post the Taylor Swift tweet, we don't have enough information, folks. Really, I'd wait at least another 2 nights to call whether there is a new trend in the race, because as of last week, the headline was that Trump is recapturing the momentum. So if you don't like seeing the individual nightly results, follow us on Twitter at Rasmussen_poll. Follow me at Mark_R_Mitchell, and wait for Thursday, because that's when our next big poll is going to come out. And guess what? We also finally got a sponsor for a September set of swing states And it isn't just going to be the big 6. We're also adding, like people have been asking for, 4 more, and they include Virginia for all you Virginia people. So those results are probably going to be out the end of this week or the beginning of next. So make sure you like the video, subscribe on YouTube or Rumble, because we're definitely going to do a video on it. Follow us on Twitter, and thanks for watching.